Chris, can you come over this side? Yeah.
Or do you want to stand in here, or are we? What are we?
Hey,
I don't
Gail.
think. How are we doing?
Everybody's coming
Okay,
up for
right.
photos after the presentation.
We good?
Yeah. Yeah.
These are on?
And everybody gets to play with Ari after. So.
Are these on?
We'll have free Ariana for some reason.
Okay, we're going to get started now. Thank you all so much for coming, and thank you to my colleagues who are joining us in support of this important legislation. I'm State Representative Christina Sappey, and I'm excited to say this week the Senate has the opportunity to pass a vital piece of legislation that will make a tangible difference in the lives of countless Pennsylvanians, House Bill 1210. This bill, which garnered strong bipartisan support in the House, addresses the critical and urgent need to protect not just individuals, but also their companion animals from the devastating cycle of domestic abuse. House Bill 1210 would explicitly allow companion animals to be included in protection from abuse orders. We know from survivor stories and research that abusers frequently target pets as a way to control and terrorize their victims. In fact, 97% of domestic violence survivors report that keeping their pets with them is a major factor in deciding whether or not to seek shelter, and half would not even consider entering a shelter without their pets. By passing this bill, we are closing a critical gap, helping to ensure that no one is forced to choose between their own safety and the safety of a beloved pet. This legislation would bring Pennsylvania in line with what most other states are already doing. 37 states, plus Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico, have passed laws that automatically consider welfare of pets in protective orders. It's time for Pennsylvania to join these states in providing comprehensive protection for survivors of abuse, and this bill is our opportunity to do just that. House Bill 1210 is the result of a robust and unified effort, as you can see, with broad support from organizations dedicated to protecting survivors and ensuring public safety. Domestic violence advocacy groups like the National Link Coalition and Crisis Center North, and law enforcement organizations like the PA Sheriff's Association, the PA District Attorneys Association, the Attorney General's Office, and animal welfare organizations like the Humane Society of the United States and Humane Action of Pennsylvania have all come together to support this bill. This is a testament to the strength of our coalition and our shared commitment to addressing a critical gap in domestic violence laws. It's also important to note that in a time where most things seem to be politicized, this bill has strong bipartisan support, which I just mentioned, in both chambers, with a unanimous Senate Judiciary Committee vote yesterday. This is an issue that transcends political lines because we all understand the importance of protecting the vulnerable, whether human or animal. The Senate has the power to pass 1210 this week and help provide peace of mind to survivors of domestic violence. Let's ensure that Pennsylvanians are no longer forced to choose between their safety and the safety of their pets. By passing this bill, the Senate will be making a compassionate, common-sense decision that aligns Pennsylvania with the majority of states across our country. Thank you again for coming to support victims and their family animals. And now I'd like to introduce my co-prime sponsor, who I'm so grateful to for this 4-year journey, Representative Natalie Mihalek.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for being here today. This has been a labor of love for over 4 years now, and I do want to take a moment to just recognize my colleague, Representative Sappey, for her tireless efforts toward this cause. It's been a pleasure to work with you, and I think our work here can serve as an example of a bipartisan partnership that looks past politics and actually tries to get something done. I do want to mention just a few more groups that Rep. Sappey mentioned, and there are just so many. I'm probably going to leave somebody out, but I want to just say how grateful we are to the Humane Society of the United States, the Animal Welfare Institute, National Link Coalition, the Association of Prosecuting Attorneys, Keystone Link Coalition, the Crisis Center of North Pittsburgh, the Center for Children's Justice, Federated Humane Societies, Humane Action Pittsburgh, Children's Advocacy Centers of PA, and Mission Child's Advocacy Center, who have all helped to get this bill so far. We are so close, and we are so hopeful that the Senate is going to do the right thing and get this across the finish line this week. It's been a long road, and the reason that we have kept going for so many years is because we were determined to make a difference in the lives of victims of domestic violence. Getting House Bill 1210 across the finish line is important for two simple but very sad reasons. Number one, when there is domestic abuse in the home, the chances are very high that any pets are also suffering at the hand of the same abuser. And number two, the thought of leaving behind that pet is a barrier to victims escaping their abuse. The research tells us, and I'll tell you, I've seen it firsthand as an attorney who advised hundreds of victims in PFA court, there is a direct link between domestic violence and animal cruelty. A 2017 study, among many others, showed 89% of victims of abuse who had companion animals reported that those animals were either threatened or harmed. Pets play such a crucial role in the lives of someone living with abuse, offering comfort, offering emotional support, like we have some of our support dogs here today. It's so important for them. But these same animals are also potential victims of abuse themselves. The abusers often use the pets as tools of control, threatening harm or death if the victim tries to leave. The victim feels trapped and fearful for what may happen to their furry friend if they flee. So victims will often delay or just not get help altogether. It doesn't have to be this way. House Bill 1210 will provide courts, advocates, and attorneys with the tools they need to ensure victims can come forward and not have to decide between their safety and their pets. Again, I'm so grateful to the many advocates that we have up here and who've worked with us over these last few years to get 1210 this far. In addition to some of you who I mentioned earlier, I did want to take a moment to thank Senator Laughlin, a champion of this legislation and someone who stands strong against animal cruelty and domestic violence. Senator Laughlin unfortunately had to return home for a family emergency today, but he offered this. The passage of House Bill 1210 through the Senate Judiciary yesterday is an important milestone in our effort to protect both people and pets from the hands of their abusers, and it brings us one step closer to turning this legislation into law. Our message is clear. Abuse in any form will not be tolerated, and that includes abuse of animals. I'm sure he would have also thanked Representative Sappey and I for our very hard work over the last 4 years. But again, I want to thank you all for being here today, and I really look forward to getting this across the finish line once and for all. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sheriff James Custer from Fayette County, Pennsylvania, and I'm excited to be here today for this important legislation. And representatives, I want to thank you as well for crafting this legislation and all the co-sponsors and support members. As sheriffs and those in law enforcement, we recognize and encounter the repercussions of Pennsylvania being one of the few states that doesn't allow companion animals to be included in PFA orders. Many victims of domestic abuse choose to stay in violent situations in order to stay with their pets. In one survey, 71% of domestic violence victims reported that the abused also targeted companion animals. Researchers have found that between coercive control and the abuse of pets, with abusers often being family pets as leverage in tormenting their victims, threatening to harm or kill them in their victims when they leave. With this legislation, we can now protect both. There is no reason any animal should go through unimaginable anguish and gain and pain at the hands of someone who is supposed to care for them. Legislators recognize that the time has come to even further to protect, serve all the constituents, both humans and animals. On behalf of the Pennsylvania Sheriff's Association, I thank you all for your support of House Bill 1210, which gives judges the ability to order defendants to refrain from abusing victims' pets in protection from abuse orders. The Protection from Abuse Act allows judges to order many different kinds of relief to prevent further abuse. Thank you, and with that, I'd like to introduce Natalie Mihalek, Executive Director of the Humane Action of Pennsylvania.
Thank you so much, Sheriff. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Natalie Mihalek. I'm the Executive Director of Humane Action Pennsylvania and the Pennsylvania State Director for Animal Wellness Action. We're standing together in strong support of House Bill 1210, a bill that is not only critical for protecting survivors of domestic violence, both human and animal, but also a much-needed step forward in a legislative session where animals have seen no significant victories. Animals are often caught in the crossfire of domestic abuse and used by abusers as tools of control and intimidation. For survivors of abuse, their pets are family, and the fear of leaving them behind can be paralyzing and a barrier to their own safety. By passing House Bill 1210, we send a clear message that Pennsylvania recognizes the deep bond between people and their animal companions, and that we will protect both from violence. But beyond this, our legislature must step up to do more for animals. They depend on us, on our voice, to safeguard their welfare. We cannot allow an entire legislative session to end without passing meaningful protections for animals. Passing House Bill 1210 is a critical first step, but it must not be the last. Let's make sure Pennsylvania stands up for survivors of abuse, human and animal alike, and recognizes the value of compassionate legislation. Thank you so much again to everyone for being here. Thank you to our bill sponsors, Rep. Sappey and Rep. Mihalek, who have championed this bill over so many years. And now it's my pleasure to introduce probably one of the most amazing advocates on Capitol, at the Capitol for animals, the Pennsylvania State Director for the Humane Society of the United States. Ari as well, but Kristen Tullo.
Thanks, Natalie. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natalie. And Ari is today the most loved lobbyist in Harrisburg, so thanks for being with us. I'm also the co-founder of the Keystone Link Coalition, and we aim to connect the dots between animal cruelty and interpersonal violence. And so we are very grateful to recognize our sponsors, Representative Sappey and Representative Mihalek, who have worked together in a bipartisan effort to establish these provisions to include pets and protection orders, and to our legislative leaders who stand with us in support of this bill today, who otherwise are now supporting legislation that would delay leaving these dangerous situations, which you'll hear about today. I wanted to extend a really gracious thank you to Sheriff Custer as well for wisely recognizing the connection between animal and human abuse. As Representative Sappey had made a comment in her statement, I just wanted to kind of reinforce how important it is that 38 other states, including Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico, have similar laws. And so this is a really big step to see the Senate Judiciary Committee move this legislation forward. I also wanted to recognize that we have the Humane Society of Harrisburg and Brandywine Valley SPCA with us. And they have incredible programs that we're really proud to share through their animal shelters that address a critical need for safe haven programs. So they provide housing and services for those who are experiencing domestic violence for their pets. So I wanted to make sure to mention that. You see them in the purple here today. And you're going to hear from Dr. Cassandra Reyes, who is representing as a citizen advocate and also a professor at Westchester University. Her expertise in developing the first known animal cruelty course in the U.S. She has also taught over 1,000 students through this program, and she's published a book that really highlights the understanding and the high correlation between these abuses. And to Grace Coleman, Dana Friday, and Ari, thank you. We call him our cuddle intervention specialist. And this legislation is crucial to their work, and they're going to be sharing that with you today. So I will hand it over. Before that, though, I did want to say for those of us that are here today, there are fact sheets. So if you can pop into your senator's office after, grab one of these. And our purpose today is to urge the Senate to call a vote on House Bill 1210 and for the full Senate to pass the bill. So for those who are live streaming in, this is a great opportunity to pick up the phone phone, make a quick call, send a quick email, and encourage support for this important legislation to ensure that all individuals who experience domestic violence, including pets, receive the protection they need. Thank you. And I'll hand it over.
Hi, everyone. My name is Grace Coleman, and I am the CEO and president of Crisis Center North. I'm joined today with Dana Friday, who is the head of our Pause for Empowerment program, and her canine companion, Ari, who I happen to live with. So we are here today, all of us, to make the case. The representatives' work have been so important, and all of those who have come together recognize what it is that we see each and every day in our domestic violence center. Today, I want to give you a small glimpse of what that looks like. Our Pause for Empowerment program began in 2010 with a little shelter dog named Penny. She offered a cold nose and warm brown eyes and unlimited compassion in both therapy and courtroom settings. Today, our Pause for Empowerment program has grown into a nationally recognized program with a team of 3 canine court advocates on staff and occasionally a cat, but the cat's a little fussy. The program is remove the barriers that many domestic violence victims face when trying to flee from violence. The program has helped over 300 humans, provided over 1,600 services, and has helped 500 companion animals. We've trained over 1,500 professionals, and I share these statistics not to bore you, but to point out how much the community is behind this and how much these services are needed. And I know that everyone in this room is aware of that. But to greatly illustrate that, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Dana, who's going to share a compelling story that illustrates what it is that we see.
So here's a reality of what Pennsylvania domestic violence victims face when their pets are threatened. We had a client who was admitted into the hospital for abusive injuries. Very serious. While in the hospital, her abuser FaceTimed her, and in the FaceTime video was the abuser with his hands wrapped around her dog's neck. He told her, if you tell anyone about this abuse, you report this abuse, or you don't return home, this dog will die. The client had no way to immediately protect that dog. So what did she do? She left the hospital and she went home. But hopefully that will change. So I'd like to introduce another story, very compelling story, from Dr. Cassandra Reyes, she is from the Westchester University and is going to share some more experiences of domestic violence with you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for all being here, and thank you both the representatives for spearheading this bill, which is a very important bill and will save a lot of lives, in my opinion. As you've heard, I'm a professor at Westchester University in criminal justice. I served in law enforcement for approximately 10 years in New Jersey. During that time, about 2.5 years of my life were spent dealing with a very abusive partner. I'd been threatened with a gun in my face, with knives, and this whole time I had a little tabby cat named Sammy. I'm so very fortunate that Sammy never dealt with any injuries himself, but I was very protective of him. It took me 3 tries to get out of this relationship. I had 2 dismissed restraining orders, and then I have a final one. And in New Jersey, when you have a final restraining order, it's forever. So he is not allowed to have any guns for the rest of his life or anything else. I don't know where he's at, but he had a major addiction to drugs as well. He's probably harming somebody else at this point. But I want to thank everybody for what you're doing, because I'm one of the lucky ones who got out. There are a lot of us who nobody knows about and may not go to the police, may not let their families know because they're too afraid to leave, and they will face possibly very horrible ends. Remember, there's a dark figure of people out there who do not present themselves to the criminal justice system. A bill like this and a law like this will enable so many people to get out of these situations, and not only for the humans, but also the non-human animals within the families, because we do know that they're often the victims of this violence as well. So I thank all of you for being here. Thank you.
Thank you all so much again for being here, and for the volunteers who made the trip to Harrisburg to be with us today. We're so close, so we're very happy to have you with us, and hopefully we'll all gather again very soon to watch this bill get signed into law. So at this point, we're going to conclude our press conference if there's any questions or comments. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for being here. Can we get all of our volunteers and advocates up here for a group photo?